one of the really important things when it comes to club sport, the development of clubs and the sporting system in Scotland, is their willingness and their ability to work in partnership or to collaborate with other organisations. And I think for me, I see tons of great examples of that within individual clubs. You know, they might be collaborating with sponsors, they might be working really closely with a local primary or secondary school, collaborating to provide a pathway for young people to get involved in their sport. But for me personally, the space I'm really interested in and see lots of great collaboration happening is through community sport hubs, where we've got clubs working with each other. We've got community organisations that are using sport to achieve their outcomes, involved in partnerships with club sport. We've got clubs, you know, basically looking for opportunities to work with other organisations in their community that have a relationship and an understanding of a group of people that they don't, so that they can, I guess, promote their offer to a broader group of people and ultimately get more people participating and involved.
I think that's definitely one of the benefits of collaborating with non-sporting partners, is that those non-sporting partners generally work with an audience that sport doesn't work with. Yep. So that ability to reach out into new audiences, to understand those audiences, and then to get them to connect with sport and potentially bring them into the club, I think is absolutely massive. But I think there's also those partnerships where potentially national partners that maybe you're bringing in expertise and resource, whether that be staff time or funding, so that a club can potentially look at a certain area. So it might be around mental health and bringing in mental health charities to try and upskill their coaches and their leaders. Yep. To support the mental health of the members of their clubs, but equally those in the community that they're wanting to come in and benefit from sport. Yeah,
I guess you can come to it two ways, can't you? You know, you can identify an area where you've got a need, and you know, you can seek out partners or other organisations that can help with that need. But I just quite like the organic approach of, you know, just clubs being curious, you know, willing to talk to other organisations and really ask them questions, but listen to what they're trying to do, who they're engaging, how they do things, and just make some decisions as a club whether that's the type of organisation that you could collaborate with, because it might be they can bring something that you've not even thought about yet, you know, as an opportunity or a need.
Yeah, totally. And I think that's why it's really important that clubs really understand what their kind of vision and purpose is, what their why is. Because when they're clear on that, if they're going out into their community and being curious and having those conversations with other organisations in their community, those whys are going to eventually match. Yep. And there can be some really great magic happening there in terms of that collaboration and the achievement of outcomes through sport.
Yeah. So I guess if I kind of take an example of, you know, one that I've seen there is it's a community club that is all about just using sport to develop great people. Mm-hmm. You know, that's why they exist. And there was an opportunity to have a conversation with the imam from the local mosque. Yep. And, you know, they just sat down, had a cup of coffee, had a conversation with the imam. And, you know, he's saying, well, we've got a group of young guys in here and, you know, they're in the mosque a lot, but the leaders are recognising they're not as physically active as they would like them to be. They're engaged, they're learning, but they're not as physically active as they'd like them to be. So they have the conversation with them about what you're interested in, and it was football and basketball, and you know, even that just then brought, I guess, us together around, okay, well, what can we do around, you know, the skills that we have as a basketball club versus the opportunities you're seeking as a community organisation, as a religious institution. And, you know, the simple suggestion was, well, you know, let's just put a coach in. But the bit I liked about it was that they just deepened the conversation and they talked more about, well, rather than us just putting a coach in and providing a session, is there something that we could strive for that's a little bit more long-term, a little bit more, there's a little bit more intent to try and bridge our two organisations, bring them closer together for the long term, rather than just find the simplest solution to the opportunity. So again, it's not rocket science. It just comes down to people taking time to, you know, have the discussions, understand each other, and then set out between them, you know, really clear shared actions and aspirations, and just keep reviewing them and then sharing the learning off the back of it. And I guess what gets me out of bed in the morning a little bit around working in sport is that there's so much potential to take the great people that are leading sports clubs and better connect them to other organisations in their community.
But that can be hard. I think that first step of just going to a mosque, a youth services, the New Scots, kind of service within a council, it's a big step for some. But actually, once you've done it, once you've done that curiosity conversation, actually it's just about bringing people into sport and getting people physically active, which is our bread and butter. So the more that people can do that, the better. I think going back to your point just there about working with the mosque, is that you've had that conversation, but I think what has been most successful is around that it's co-creation. It's not just we will come in and do deliver some basketball. It's really that conversation to understand one another, so that the long-term outcomes will be achieved, and people will sustain their involvement and that partnership will go on. It's really important. Clubs are great at providing activity in their communities, but there is sometimes a lack of knowledge about what exists outside the walls or the gates. And for a club to undertake a simple exercise of community mapping, just actually looking beyond the gates and figuring out what capital assets, what venues, what facilities are out there, what partners, what services there are, and asking them questions. What is it you do? What outcomes are you trying to achieve? Who do you work with? And that can be a really simple exercise to try and improve the work that the club's doing and get more people engaged in sport.
It's the type of thing that we're really encouraging some of the professional staff in the sporting system to lead on. Community sport hub officers, we want them to be really proactive in helping volunteer leaders in clubs establish those maps, build up those pictures. Because you're right, I'm a volunteer leader myself, and I want to spend as much time as I can working with young people and on the pitch, on the court, and that does detract from the amount of time that I spend then thinking about what's beyond the boundaries of my organisation. So I think the help's there to allow you to do it. And again, in my experience, there's a whole variety of actions that can come out of that. It could be a really simple connection where you can agree a really simple piece of joint work to do together, and off you go, you can make it happen. But conversely, we've also seen over time real strong relationships develop. Other partners start to get invited around the table, start to feed their energy, ideas into designing something collective.
Partner work.
And then all of a sudden you've got a bigger project that's receiving maybe wider investment, and the beneficiaries are multiplying from it. So there's a scale to it. I think it starts with mapping and understanding what the opportunities are. It doesn't have to be something huge, it can be something really simple. But conversely, just starting that conversation in multiple community sport hubs, I've seen that quite quickly multiply and spin into drawing down financial support, but also drawing down some human resource, some people to help you bring your ideas to life as well. And
I guess part of that is, with different partners, is understanding one another. So why an organisation exists, who they're trying to support. And as you evolve through that process of understanding one another, it becomes more of an even and equitable process of supporting one another and actually creating work together, planning together, looking at the joint outcomes that you're trying to achieve. That's true partnership.
It ultimately makes the work easier. If you've got more people involved and more hands involved, then the whole thing becomes a lot easier to do, as well as a lot more impactful. I think as well in club sport, we often kind of undersell what we have to offer the wider community. Yes, there's a participation opportunity there, but the organisations need a workforce of volunteers. Those organisations have leadership opportunities at multiple different levels. And to do a sport, you need a whole host of other skills to make that sport come to life, administrative skills, organisational skills, IT skills, etc. So I think going into partnership conversations, I would really encourage sports leaders to think a bit more broadly about what they do in their organisation, and what opportunities that they can offer other partners. Because in my experience, it's a lot more than purely just the opportunity to participate or the opportunity to volunteer. There's some really, really meaningful opportunities that sport has for partner organisations.
And if they can be really clear about the offer that a club or community organisation has, they also need to be clear about when they approach a partner what that ask is. What is it they're actually looking for in a partnership?
Yep.
And that's only going to improve any partnership that comes off the back of that conversation.